Ladies and gentlemen and colleagues, this is Puji Pujono from Rumah Resiliensi Indonesia. Another opportunity for me to share with you information from the venue related to the global platform on disaster reduction, 7th session in Bali, Indonesia. And we are privileged now to have our colleagues, Pak Simon from the DFAT. Shortly I will be requesting him to introduce himself and what he is doing. And then I would like to spend some time with him to discuss about the cooperation of Australia and Indonesia on disaster reduction, and also try to discuss on the way from here to Brisbane. So, Pak Simon, thank you for coming here. As it is a privilege for us to have you here. Now, very quickly, would you like to introduce yourself, your name, and what you're doing? You can use bahasa if you like, but see how you comfortable. Bisa,
okay.
Bisa, silakan.
Okay, so selamat sore Pak. Saya senang sekali kami bisa bertemu tetap muka ya. So of course we have collaborated, I think, on online discussions previously through the pandemic, but I'm so pleased to be able to meet you in person. So thank you also for the opportunity to speak to you this afternoon. As you have already said, my name is Simon Ernst. I'm a counsellor, development counsellor at the Australian Embassy in Jakarta. And one of the very important functions that I have oversight of is our Disaster and Climate Resilience Unit. So I'm very happy to be able to talk to you a little bit about that this afternoon. Thank you, Pak.
Excellent. Jadi ini Pak Simon Ernst dari bertugas di Kedutaan Besar Australia di Jakarta. Now, Pak Simon, let's get into this. What you say, one part of your work actually is on disaster risk reduction in one of your unit, and I understand that the cooperation between Australia and Indonesia has been going on for many years. Well, could you just quickly characterize that relationship, that cooperation on disaster risk reduction?
Sure, Mark. Yeah, so as you say...
And climate, as you said earlier.
Well, climate, indeed. Yeah. You know, so as you say, currently we have the Australia-Indonesia Partnership for Disaster Risk Management, SIAP-SIAGA, 5-year program running from 2019 through to 2024 and possibly beyond. That's really only just the current sort of manifestation or the current chapter of our collaboration. You know, our collaboration on disaster risk management and disaster risk reduction, in fact, goes all the way back to the tragic 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, which is actually the first time I worked here in Indonesia. So from that time until now, that collaboration with Indonesia, because as we all know, Indonesia faces so many hazards. It is a beautiful country with so many fantastic volcanic peaks. They're wonderful to look at, but when they erupt, they are still beautiful, but also frightening. So of course you have the geophysical hazards here in Indonesia, but also unfortunately increasingly what we call the hydrometeorological hazards, right? The flooding, the storms, the longsor, which are induced by climate. Of course, that link is there. That link is there between climate change and the increased frequency of disasters. So here in Indonesia and elsewhere, Australian government very keen to work to support the efforts of the Indonesian government to really manage that disaster risk better, to reduce economic losses and save lives, of course. Now. Clearly, that's when we look at it from bilateral, it looks like this. But Indonesia is also a member of the Asia-Pacific family, part of the regional setup, if you like, you know. So, is there any implication? Is there any connection with the regional, you know, cooperation in Asia-Pacific emanating from Indonesia and Australia partnership? Well, indeed there is. Indeed there is. I mean, I can only assume that. When the government of Indonesia offered to host the global platform for disaster risk reduction, which of course where we're meeting, it was partly because Indonesia wanted to share its very rich experience, its very sophisticated understanding of disaster risk with other countries of the region, but also the rest of the world. And I think actually Indonesia has so much to share with other countries, both wealthy countries and perhaps less wealthy countries And so, of course...
And clearly among the islands nations.
The small island developing states, indeed.
Which resonate really well with colleagues in the Pacific, for example, right?
Indeed, and that's, I mean, Australia, of course, as both a Pacific and Asian nation, if you like, Pak. You know,
lucky you, know,
like we have that Pacific Pacific border, and then of course immediately to our north is our closest neighbour, Indonesia,
yes,
right? So you know, Australia part of Asia, part of the Pacific, really wanting to be able to embrace the whole region. So of course we are keen to, Indonesia is keen, as Indonesia maju, as Indonesia advances, Indonesia wants to play a bigger role in the region, and Australia is very keen to support that, to assist that, and to be part of that.
Right. Now my last question would be, in a couple of months, in about less than 6 months, Australia will be hosting the Asia-Pacific Ministerial Conference on Disaster Risk Reduction. This is a long-running ministerial conference, and now you will be hosting. My question would be, what will you take forward from this global platform hosted by Indonesia to the ministerial conference hosted by Australia in the context of our previous conversation just now, Pak Simon?
Well, I can give you my ideas, Pak, right? I can't.
Sure.
You know, given that many of the meetings are yet to occur.
I think things are still moving.
But certainly, you know, we've had a number of discussions, and also facilitated linkages to my colleagues in Canberra between BNPB and Department of Foreign Affairs in Canberra about making that Bali to Brisbane
bridge,
that Bali to Brisbane link, and then potentially also back to Bali for the G20, of course.
Correct. Right? That's in October.
Of course, you know, disaster risk reduction. It's not just a sectoral issue.
Correct.
It's about, you know, it's about finance. It's about the whole economy. So I think, you know, it remains to be seen exactly what things get taken from Bali to Brisbane. But to me, you know, one of the great contributions that Indonesia has is really that conceptualization of the pentahelix approach, right? The disaster, reducing the impact of the
partnership.
That's right, and reducing the impact of disasters is in everybody's interests, and everyone has a role to play. So academia, government, business, the community, etc. And actually, you know, in Indonesia, you have this really nice tradition of gotong royong. Yeah,
that's correct.
And I see that, you know, that idea of the people coming together, working together in the mutual interest for the good of the community, actually translates very well to the idea about the pentahelix and disaster risk reduction. But also works, I think, very well for small island developing states and maybe economies that are not so wealthy, not so technologically advanced. That idea of communities coming together
resonate well with that.
It doesn't require money, Pak, you know. So it's something that I think that Indonesia can demonstrate to both wealthy countries and poorer countries alike.
Pak Simon, you put me to shame. You know much more about gotong royong than I do. So with that compliment, I would like to emphasize to your colleagues and friends that Pak Simon Ernst, working from the Australian Embassy in Jakarta, has been sharing some of his perspective of the Australian-Indonesian cooperations and then the Indonesian-Australia cooperation in the context of Asia-Pacific and the road and link from Bali to Brisbane and hopefully back to Bali for G20. Pak Simon, thank you very much for spending your time with us. It has been very, very pleasure for us and very informative. Pak Simon, thank you. Terima kasih atas kedatangannya.
Terima kasih kesempatan ini, Pak.
All right, colleagues and friends, that's Puji Pujiono from Rumah Resiliensi Indonesia. Thank you, and I will see you in the next interview. Thanks.